rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick Thomas, and we have finally made it through another week. We're going into a 3-day weekend, and yes, just to answer your questions, I will have a show on Monday. Okay, before anybody gets to the point of asking, I am working on, hopefully going to try and get something put together like I usually do, something that will be, I'm hoping will be honoring those who have given their life, paid the ultimate sacrifice so that we can be free in the greatest country this earth has ever seen. Ever. And I'm not even playing. I'm being totally serious. Ever. But before we get to Monday, we also have a show on Saturday. I have my show tomorrow as well. So you get to see me one more time before that Memorial Day weekend show. And that's fantastic, I think. Hopefully you think so too. You seem to want to keep coming back, which is, that is, believe me, my heart fills with joy every time I see that. So I do appreciate you being here. Speaking of all those who I appreciate, let me just run through the people that I see over on Facebook. I see Tommy popped over on Facebook. We know she slums sometimes over on Rumble. But anyway, I see the typical Amy, Bam, Buddy Weiser. I see Nana. I see, let's see, who else do I see? Well, I think that's pretty much all that's checked in at this point. So if you haven't checked in yet and said hello, you might want to. Hopefully nothing happened to my chat. Oh, there we go. There, we got a little smile there. All right. So tonight I have a couple of segments that I haven't done in a while. I have a short little constitutional quarter for you tonight, as well as a highlighting America. We're putting them both together. Or not together, but they're both here. I couldn't forget Mark. I don't know why I missed Mark. Mark is over there too. Mark. Hello, Mark. Good to see you. Okay. And some other information. I've got some more things going on about the Supreme Court, of the United States for tonight as well. But before we get going on all of that, of course, I must start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And tonight, Pledge of Allegiance will be provided for us by the great, the one and only, the Buddy Weiser over on Rumble for tonight. So please, if you are of mind, stand, remove your hat if you have one. I always say that because I have mine. Remove your hat, put your hand over your heart, and let's listen to Buddy's rendition of the Pledge of Allegiance.
I hereby pledge my allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which she stands, one nation under one God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all her citizens. So help me God.
All right. Thank you for that, Buddy. I do appreciate that, as I do all my Whiskey Warriors. If you would like to submit an audio of you reading the Pledge of Allegiance, please record yourself doing so and then send me the audio file. I don't really necessarily care what format it's in because I can convert most of them. I won't say I can convert all, but I can convert most if I need to. And you can send that in to me to the email address of fans, F-A-N-S, at americanperspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at americanperspective.online. All right, let's go ahead now. Tonight, since we're going to be talking a little bit more about the Constitution, let's go ahead and talk about the Institute on the Constitution, which was established in 2004 as a 501c3 nonprofit with one singular mission: to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education. All courses and materials are developed using primary source documents and taught from the American view of law and government as defined in the Declaration of Independence in the following 3 key points. 1, there is a God. 2, our rights come from him. And 3, the purpose of civil government is to secure and protect our God-given rights. The IOTC offers the opportunity to educate yourself on our most precious founding document, the Constitution of the United States. They also provide tools to educate your community and get involved with local government. Start by taking their free U.S. Constitution course and go from there. Use my affiliate link, iotc.americanperspective.online, to sign up. And while you are there, take a moment to look through their other course material and information. My affiliate link, once again, is iotc.americanperspective.online to get great content, to learn about our historical founding, and support the show in the process. That's iotc.americanperspective.online. Or if you just want to purchase this fabulous Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitution, go to constitution.americanperspective.online. Take a look at this thing. It's got 1/8 of an inch of Saddleback leather that protects and covers the tear-resistant, water-resistant pages. Also has stitched binding that goes all the way through the leather and the documents, holding it all together. They have a 100-year warranty against material defects and workmanship defects, and you can return it for you can return it if it is ever damaged, for them to refix or replace for free. Once again, you can go and get this at constitution.americanperspective.online. It is buddy tested, buddy approved. Billy tasted, Billy approved. It is my youngest whiskey warrior verified, because he received his civics badge in Scouts by using this as a primary source document. So go off to constitution.americanperspective.online and pick up your copy today. And also don't forget to check out the Institute on the Constitution while you are there. I thank them for allowing me to be an affiliate with them. Yes, that is fantastic. All right. So let's go ahead and dive in. Donald Trump, yesterday I talked a little bit and tried to show a little bit about the rally that was in the Bronx for Donald Trump. Now, you can always tell when the left is concerned about something, okay? Because of the fact that you'll see it in not only their social media posts, but also you'll see it in the left-wing rags. For an example, in the left-wing rag of Axios said that Trump bombs the Bronx. That's the headline that's in there. But when you read a little further, you would think, hey, that's something that, maybe that meant that Trump went there and there was only like 5 people or something. I mean, it was just absolutely horrible. No, for them, they point out some serious problems. Because first they say, well, it drew a crowd. That's the first thing. And then, of course, it drew a crowd that looked very different than the typical MAGA flock, they say. And why does that matter? And here is what they are afraid of them. They basically said that the unusual sight of Trump speaking to several thousand people in a predominantly Hispanic neighborhood in deep blue New York is a sign of the realignment happening between the two parties. Trump's GOP is becoming more working class and a little more multiracial. Democrats are gaining with more well-educated voters in the suburbs. Not exactly sure about that. But anyway, the big picture they call out is the fact that the the big picture that they call out the fact that Biden put out a digital and television ads prior to the rally saying Trump disrespecting black folks is nothing new. And the campaign posted on X is let's remember that Trump is a lifelong racist. Now that wasn't reflected in the campaign stop. And of course, the Trump campaign responded with a reminder that Biden helped pass the 1994 crime bill, which he did. But here's where the rubber meets the road here, folks. Seriously. Sabrina Dixon, who is a security guard from the North Bronx who attended the rally with her husband, she's 28, by the way, was previously skeptical of Trump because of his comment about grabbing by the pussy. Okay. Sorry. Earmuffs. But anyway, she basically said that comment threw her off. But after studying up on his policies, and this right here, I'm just going to tell you, this right here is the crux of what I and all of the other people who are in the conservative party are attempting to get out in front of the middle of the road moderate Democrats, the ones that are in the middle in terms of the independents, and so on and so forth. And here's the reason, is because, as she says, after studying up on his policies, she believes he is actually trying to do good for America. And then she says, I don't think he's racist because I grew up watching Donald Trump on TV on WrestleMania. She added, everybody loved him. Okay. Sam Gonzalez, a 38-year-old barber from Astoria, New York, told Axios he feels a certain kinship with Trump because he's from New York. I support Trump for the simple fact that he's from Queens. The bottom line that they call out, and there's a couple of other couple other things that they were talking about, where the other side kind of, got their licks in. But anyway, the bottom line here, of course, is that Trump knows that he's not necessarily going to win the Bronx. Okay. His chances of actually winning areas like the Bronx are pretty slim. And yeah, it's entirely possible for that to happen. But his efforts in places like New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia are going to go a long way to show that he is serious about courting non-traditional Republican voters. And it could actually force Democrats to spend more resources shoring up the Democrat base. And that's what they're afraid of. AOC talked about how this thing in the Bronx, she was like, oh yeah, the Bronx is it's not going to do anything. Nobody's going to show up. Yeah. There was something like 3,500 people there, I think, or whatever. But the thing about it is that what they don't seem to understand is that Trump, even though AOC claimed that this was sort of like putting an ankle bracelet on him, having to be in court every single day, well, that backfired because that's given the man the opportunity. I mean, I think they had the thought that he was just going to sit there and do nothing. But instead, he, like I said, he is a marketing machine. He is a marketing master. He knows how to market his name. He knows how to get his name out there and market. He is that. I mean, you could just see that on the whole Apprentice, the Trump Towers. I mean, all of this stuff. And yeah, so that's just, they thought it was going to stop him. It hasn't stopped him. And that's kind of going to turn on them because now they're going to have to focus on the areas that they would normally consider completely blue. And I think they're moving a little more toward purple myself, but we'll see. But But yeah, it's this kind of stuff that they're a little scared of, for sure. Giving him an opportunity to get a microphone, a camera, and to talk to people, you know, and the left, honestly, when they were out there, they were talking, even like some of the left Democrat. I mean, you can just tell on the social media, you can tell who's paid and who's not. Well, they went and they paid multiple times. You know, there were paid influencers or whatever they're calling them now that were all posting photos. They posted this photo. They posted this photo that was taken of the rally, but they forgot to crop out the time that it was shown on television, and it was taken from a helicopter. It was supposed to be a live shot from a helicopter. And the photo, the comment in the photos was, oh, look, that isn't much of a crowd. Well, there wasn't much of a crowd because it was 11 o'clock in the frickin' morning. And Trump wasn't scheduled to speak until 6 p.m. And they were sitting there trying to claim that, oh, yeah, he's standing there on the stage. No, he wasn't. He wasn't even anywhere near it. He was in court, morons. Anyway, so, yeah, this kind of thing that they're trying to do just isn't really helping them at all whatsoever. Not at all. All right, folks. Quick shift of gears. So one of the things that's been running around on social media, and, you know, I know there's a lot of people who say, just don't get on social media. Social media sucks, you know, blah, blah, blah. But here's the thing is that the social media outlets, especially places like X, where the left lives, again, it gives you a platform. It gives you an opportunity. And occasionally, like I said on Wednesday, occasionally you'll get ones that actually are interested in what you have to say. But there's a lot of talk, especially with regards to a few things. One of them being abortion, another one being things like guns, and then another one being things like Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid and all of that. Now, I typically, whenever I see those, outside of the gun issue, because the gun issue is Second Amendment, there's just no question on that one. But usually for the abortion one or anything dealing with health care, I typically point out that there is no constitutionally mandated requirement for the federal government to be involved in either one of those. And typically when I do that, I'll get flack. Not really all that surprisingly. But what ended up happening with some people, with a couple people in particular, this one guy came out and asked me, he's like, well, you know, he says, what about all of this? And he lists off a whole bunch of stuff. And within that list, there was one about attacking transgenders. And I just responded, I said, you don't seem to be a serious person if you're pulling out essentially crap like that. You know, transgenders, attacking transgenders, because they're not attacking transgenders. They're not attacking them at all. They're just saying we need to understand and realize, and by they, I mean the conservative parties, we just need to realize that we can't necessarily bow down to them, that they have to, we're not attacking them. But at the same time, we're not, like, for an example, men and women's sports, okay? We're not necessarily jumping on board with the idea that men and women's sports go together. So anyway, we kind of got around to talking about, of course, the whole thing with the healthcare issue. And one of the things that I always get hit with in terms of talking about the Constitution and what it means is I usually get hit with, well, there's this part called promote the general welfare in the Constitution. Okay? Promote the general welfare. Well, I've got something for that. I've got something for that tonight. So tonight on tonight's Constitutional Quarter, I want to talk a little bit about the language and a couple of words in particular, but the language in the Constitution. So, with no further ado, here we are with Constitution Quarter. All right, so if you want to follow along, you might want to get out your Constitution, okay? And here's the thing, all right? Here's the thing about it is that you need to understand that the only way that you're really going to fully focus and be able to fully understand the English words and the language that's in the Constitution is to be able to look back at Noah Webster's 1828 dictionary. And this is very common in terms of the Second Amendment, just as an example, okay? The Constitution for the Second Amendment, which actually was, again, written, the Bill of Rights was written a year after the Constitution was written and ratified in 1789 or 1790. Anyway, the point being is that the Constitution had a specific set of words, well-regulated. And in today's day and age, well-regulated commonly refers to the idea that it is regulated by the government, something well-regulated. Well, that wasn't the definition, the primary definition back in 1828. So if you want to understand some of the words and some of the meanings behind the words, you have to go and take a look at Webster's dictionary. Now, you ask me, why do I go through all of that just to make sure that you understand? Well, here's the thing. On Wednesday, I recited the preamble to the Constitution to you. We, the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and ensure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Now, the two words that I want to focus on, because it's very important, keep in mind the founders took great pains to write specific words and phrases just in the Second Amendment alone. If you look at and read the debates back and forth about it, just in the Second Amendment alone, they had several revisions because they wanted to refine and get down to the real meat and potatoes, the crux of what they were looking for within the Constitution. And so in dealing with that, or in interpreting that, you have to go and take a look at the definitions, the well-known definitions and most often used definitions of the time. And in this particular case, I want to focus on the idea of provide for the common defense and promote the general welfare. Because most people look at promote general welfare and they think, oh, well, that just means that the federal government can just do whatever it wants when it comes to the people and taking care of the people, because that would be, the general welfare. Well, here's the thing. If you take a look, and again, why you have to ask yourself, if they actually meant for the federal government to take care of its people, like being the federal government that the left wants, why would they change the terminology? Why wouldn't they say, provide for the common defense and general welfare? But they didn't. They said provide for the common defense and promote the general welfare as part of a list. So they obviously meant something different with the word promote than what they did with the word provide. Let me show you case in point here. So here is a online Webster's Dictionary 1828. They have essentially taken the print and put it up onto the web. It's free. You can go and search it up. It's not a big deal. But here's the word provide. Provide, according to the dictionary back then, the first definition is to procure beforehand, to get, collect, or make ready for future use, to prepare. The second definition states to furnish, to supply, followed by with. So those first two talk about acquiring something, having it ready, being able to supply, to furnish, and that's the key, to furnish. So when they say provide for the common defense, what that essentially means is that the federal government's job, just in the preamble itself. Now, keep in mind, I'm taking away, I haven't even looked at Article 1, Section 8 yet, because that does clearly say that the national defense is 100% on the federal government. But in just the preamble, they are saying that the common defense is on the government to do. That is on the federal government to do. And we're not talking about state governments. We're talking about just the federal government, okay, in the Constitution, because that's the document that handles the federal government. Now, let's take a closer look at the term promote as it showed up in the 1828 dictionary. Now, promote, the top definition was to forward, to advance, to contribute to the growth, enlargement, or excellence of anything valuable, or to increase anything evil, as to promote learning, promote knowledge, promote virtue, promote religion, or to promote the interest of commerce or agriculture, to promote the arts, to promote civilization or refinement, to promote the propagation of the gospel, to promote vice and disorder. Now, taking just that definition, by them saying promote the general welfare, doesn't mean that the government is supposed to provide general welfare. Meaning that the government is not supposed to take an active participation, to be the primary caregiver, to be the primary source of people's livelihoods. What it means is the federal government is to help, not fully provide, but to help with the provision of it. And what they do is they basically are saying the federal government is, and keep in mind too that the preamble is basically the why, because that's how they wrote. They gave the why first and then would say, here's how. So it'd start with the why and then it would go to the how. But in this particular case, what they're talking about is providing for the provide for the common defense, which the common defense was and is a responsibility of the federal government. But the federal government is only supposed to help with the general welfare, not provide for it. And even then, things like healthcare and so on and so forth aren't listed in Article 1, Section 8. Regardless of what people want to think, because we've allowed the government to expand outside of its constitutional boundaries way too much. But in this particular case, even within the preamble, you can see the intent of the founders was not to make the federal government the end-all be-all of people's existence. And unfortunately, that's what a lot of people believe, that this is what the federal government is to do. And it's not supposed to. That is not the purpose of federal government. All right. So let me go ahead and talk real quick about these wonderful shirts that I'm wearing. They are so fantastic. I wear them every single show. They are emblazoned with all kinds of Americanized patriot type stuff that is here. Let me explain to you. Today, right now, I am wearing the Mount Rushmore shirt. The Mount Rushmore shirt is what I have on tonight, and you can check it out at theflagshirt.com. That's theflagshirt.com, and that's all lowercase, all one word, theflagshirt.com, and you can go and check it out. It is part of the men's cotton polo selection, and you can go there, and you can also get yourself a $5 off coupon if you go to flagshirt.americanperspective.online. That's flagshirt.americanperspective.online, and there you can get a code for $5 off your order when you enter it at checkout. Flagshirt.americanperspective.online to get that code. Put it in as the promo code when you go to checkout for your order, and you'll get $5 off your order for that. And once again, that is at theflagshirt.com. That's theflagshirt.com. Get patriotized. And you guys really should take a look. I mean, it would be great to have, we got Memorial Day coming up, so you're a little late, but we still have Independence Day coming up. Independence Day would be fantastic. You could show your patriotic spirit with wonderful shirts. And they have stuff not just for men, but they have it for women and so on and so forth. So, yeah. Anyway, all right. So let's take a shift over to the Supreme Court. And here's where I really think that, this right here is part of the reason why you're seeing the attacks ramping up on both Thomas and Alito, is because of these decisions that are remaining, that haven't been decided yet, that are remaining in 2024. This from Washington Examiner. Here's what we have left on the docket that have not been decided yet. The first one, of course, is immunity for former presidents. Then you have the obstruction charges for January 6th defendants. And my guess is those two are actually the reasons why the left is ramping up attacks on Thomas and Alito. Then you have I forgot all about this one, really, which is sad. The FDA versus the Alliance for Hippocratic Medicine, which is the abortion pills case. And this is basically just focused on the idea of abortion and the fact that the Supreme Court gave the states broader abilities to restrict abortion access in the Jobs decision. This one will determine whether mail-in access to the common abortion drug can be curtailed. So there's that. Then you have emergency abortion care. This one is the Idaho versus United States. And it's the issue is whether or not the federal law mandating emergency stabilizing care overrides Idaho's near total abortion ban. Remember that one. And then we have the Second Amendment rights of domestic abusers, which is based on the idea of whether banning firearm possession for people under domestic violence restraining orders violates the Second Amendment. Well, I mean, if you read the Second Amendment, it actually does, because there is that thing on the end called shall not be infringed. So anyway, and the last one that I think a lot of people are like focused on, because this is another one, the city of Grants Pass versus Johnson. This happened in Oregon. And this one is the municipality rights to ban homeless encampments. Boy, that really would suck for the left. So these are like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 cases that the left would be just triggered over. And then, of course, we have the other one, which this is another one. This will be number 7, is social media platforms' First Amendment rights. Because I forgot that Moody versus NetChoice versus Paxton, those 2 cases that were wrapped up together. And it had to deal with the fact that whether Florida and Texas can stop social media companies from removing posts based on their views. And this happened to be that's a First Amendment right issue. And then, of course, there's the Murphy versus Missouri, formerly Biden versus Missouri. But this had to deal with disinformation on social media, in particular about the COVID vaccines and so on and so forth. These are all things that haven't been decided yet. And here's one that I wasn't watching, but is now on my list, is the NRA's First Amendment rights. And this is whether the New York officials violated the First Amendment by discouraging business with the National Rifle Association. I wasn't even aware with all the other ones. I wasn't even aware of that one. And then, of course, let's see, they have the opioid settlement. This one here is whether a bankruptcy settlement shielding the Slackler family from liability in exchange for billions to fight the opioid crisis is legal. I'm not exactly sure what's going on there, but let's see. The Slackler family members who own Purdue Pharma have offered $6 billion to settle thousands of lawsuits alleging they fueled the opioid epidemic. Okay, so this one is more of a criminal case that got brought up. But then we also have the power of federal agencies. This is another one that has to deal with the Chevron doctrine, which is essentially the power of federal agencies in order to dictate bureaucracy and procedure. And this particular one is to whether to overrule a longstanding precedent that tells the courts to defer to agency interpretations when a law or statute is otherwise ambiguous. Yeah, that would be a bit of a problem. The left wouldn't like that. Yeah, these other ones don't look like they're really huge, but I mean, they could be. In this one, it's whether or not the SEC's in-house administrative courts are legal. And then we have cross-state air pollution, which is Ohio versus Environmental Protection Agency. And this one is whether to stop Biden's plan requiring Western and Midwestern factories to reduce air pollution that's affecting eastern states. And then, of course, we have bump stocks for guns. That one here, which is Garland versus Cargill. And this one is whether the former Trump administration's bump stock ban was lawful. So here's one that's actually going after Trump, or at least the former Trump administration. But the thing about that is, of course, that, that was a gun control thing, and they like that. This one was already decided, the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau. This one has already been decided under the agency funding. That one got turned over just a couple days ago. And then so are some of these other ones. So they had a long list, but the list is not quite as distinguished. But there's some stuff in here that is still being decided that's coming out. So what do they do? What does the left do? Well, the left goes ahead and jumps right in and pulls up a 3-year-old thing with regards to Samuel Alito flying the flags. I already talked about this. Pretty much everybody should know about it by now. But anyway, here's something that I dug up that I saw on X. With regards to this, so the left is pushing, and actually they're pushing a bill that would change the way change a law that has to deal with judicial conduct. And here's the problem. Okay, first of all, they keep pointing at Alito and Thomas as being the only ones who have ever done this. Okay, but the thing about it is what they don't, or what they leave out, is that there are other justices that have had problems with either conflicts of interest, or in the case of like Alito, standing out and showing, support or dissent or whatever you want, while they're on the bench. And the first one that I found was their darling RBG, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She reportedly, and this was in 2016 when this happened, but whenever she was going to read a dissent, and I didn't even know this because I wasn't really paying attention at the time, but she had a collar. Let me show you this. So here's the image. Oops, sorry. I'm going to try and get it bigger here. So here's the image of the collar that she would wear, apparently, when she was going to read a dissent on the court bench. And so realistically, whenever she would walk in to, give a opinion, you could tell based off of her attire as to whether or not she was dissenting or agreeing, apparently, I guess. I don't know. I wasn't even aware of this. But this is something that she apparently did on a regular basis. Well, when Trump was elected, reportedly, she wore it. The Associated Press actually reported this. The day after Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton to win the 2016 presidential election, Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg took to the bench wearing a black necklace with crystals, which is the piece that I just showed you, that she typically wore to express her displeasure while reading a dissent from the bench. Ginsburg, who had called Trump a faker ahead of the election, had then apologized, but she had no dissents to read when she was up on the bench wearing this necklace. Her collars were more than a subtle statement every time she entered the courtroom. So here's somebody that she was on the court. She was supposed to have a level of decorum. She was highly regarded by the left, and here she is, dissenting or showing off her opinions and views, even though she is supposed to be technically apolitical. Well, I also took a little bit closer look at a couple other things, and I found this website called Fix the Court. Now, Fix the Court is reportedly a nonpartisan 501c3 nonprofit organization that was founded in 2014. I haven't done a lot of digging into who is running this, but you can take a look at the executive director and the board of directors and so on and so forth. But they have their explicit purpose is to reform the court. And they actually have a list of fixes like term limits, codes of ethics, recusal information, financial disclosures, public appearances, things of that nature. But what they put together is a list of recent ethical lapses by the Supreme Court justices, and this was revised at the end of March of this year. And you can go through and take a look at what they consider were lapses in ethics by the Supreme Court justices. They list every single one, every single court person here. So here's the first one. I mean, obviously they put Chief Justice John Roberts up, and he apparently didn't recuse himself for a couple of cases. The 4 of them, to be exact. Then, of course, they list a crap ton under Justice Thomas, who's next. He takes up almost 3 pages by himself. Then you have Sotomayor, who did a few things, but also did not recuse herself from, let's see, at least a couple cases that I can read here. Elena Kagan, another darling of the left, didn't recuse herself on some things. Neil Gorsuch also didn't recuse himself on a couple of things that they think that he should have. And he also gave a talk. Oh my God, he gave a talk at Trump International's hotel in Washington. That was a thing that he shouldn't have done that. Brett Kavanaugh, they got them all listed here. Amy Barrett, Ketanji Brown Jackson, and then they also list some former justices like Stephen Breyer, who was another darling, and he also didn't recuse himself from things. So why am I talking about this? Well, let me explain. The reason why is because this is something that has apparently been around for quite some time. And the left seems to think that Alito and Thomas are the only ones that have ever done this before, are the only ones that need to be attacked and recused and so on and so forth. They don't mention any of these other digressions, I guess, about it. In fact, they've gotten so bad about it. They have what is called the Supreme Court Ethics, Recusal, and Transparency Act of 2023. Now, ironically, they have the same bill as in both houses. So here's the thing. If the wording of the bill, if you recall correctly, the wording of the bill, if it is exactly the same in the House's bill and the Senate's bill, then what will happen is it will be not a bipartisan, but it'll be a combined resolution once both of them actually pass. So they're listed separately here, but as long as the wording is exactly the same, they don't have to necessarily pass the other ones. They'll just combine them at the end and say this is the law. And ironically, it's put forth by two Democrats. So the Democrat in the House is Representative Johnson, Henry Johnson, out of Georgia. And then in the Senate, it is Senator Sheldon Whitehouse who put forth the bill. And both of them are just introduced. Now, keep in mind, the Senate bill was introduced in February of 2023. So it's over a year old. They haven't picked it up. And the same bill was also introduced, or the same thing was also introduced to the House at the exact same time. So this has been, over a year that these two have been sitting here. And of course, the left is now going off about the ethics and everything else. But, again, they don't mention anything about the ethics of the non-conservative judges that are there. Now, the thing about this is, and this is really the crux of the whole issue, okay? The thing about the crux of the whole issue is the fact that, is it even possible for Congress to dictate to the Supreme Court their operation? Is there, can it be done? Now, I say it's unconstitutional, and the reason why I do is because, of course, the idea of the separation of powers. But let's be honest. As I've told you on this program before, Article 3, which is what covers the Supreme Court. Article 3 was the last article that was physically written during the convention. The founders had been there for over 100 days, or close to 100 days at that point, and they wanted to go home. So they actually wrote very quickly Article 3 and left the framework of how to frame up the lower courts and those kinds of things to the First Continental Congress. That's what they did. And so in this particular instance, I have to blame the founders for not completing their job in this particular case, because of the fact that it left open a lot of things. For an example, The whole idea as to whether or not the court can be expanded or shrunk is actually based off of the Congress, because the Constitution itself does not define the size of the court. It also doesn't define specifics about how many, what the court is supposed to be comprised of. It doesn't line out anything of that nature. What it does line out in specifics has to deal with what cases the Supreme Court has purview over and what cases the Supreme Court has appellate, meaning being the appellate court, whenever you need to appeal, the appellate court over other cases. And those are the two things that it clearly talks about. But it also talks about, in terms of having the appellate jurisdiction, that the regulations, under such regulations as Congress shall make. So basically, Congress can decide what cases the Supreme Court can be have as appellate jurisdiction over. And so this kind of action, what we're dealing with here, I'm not entirely sure is completely unconstitutional. However, it is setting up what I think is going to be our next constitutional crisis, which is essentially Congress fighting over the Supreme Court. If you go and read Article 3, there really isn't a lot to it. I can show you in our little book that I have. It's these 2 pages. That's it. That's all that's there. There's nothing else in it like Article 1 in particular, which is very well written and clear. And then Article 2, which is a little bit less, but still. The point being is that Article 3 was one of the shorter articles in the Constitution. And so I'm chuckling only because of the fact that it's a pretty sad situation that we're in. So it is entirely possible. And also think about this. Congress passes this law. Somebody challenges it and saying that it's not constitutional. It has to be decided by the Supreme Court. So they essentially could say, you know what, that law is unconstitutional, and now you've got all kinds of problems. So this is going to be a really, really big deal if these things get passed. My best guess is that the majority of Congress says, you know what, we're not going to get involved with this because of separation of powers. We need to get this, we need to just, not even talk about this anymore because if we get put back in, so if the Democrats get put in, they are going to, guaranteed, they are going to expand the court, especially if this stuff, the stuff that I was reading off earlier in terms of what's left over, if all of that stuff gets passed against them, against the Democrats, you can be almost assured that they're going to expand the court. They will also probably try and put this in as their mantra as well. So folks, we are in the middle of a crisis. This is just horrible. And yeah, Buddy Weiser points out the SCOTUS rarely ever recuse themselves. To be honest, I'm not even sure that there would be a reason to recuse them. Because unless the majority, so let's take a look at this really quickly, unless the majority of the justices are involved in something, then there's absolutely no reason necessarily for them to recuse because you have 9 separate people making the decision. And I think that's kind of an argument to go against stuff like this. It's like you can't affect the entire 9 justices, or at least, let's put it this way, it should be relatively difficult to do. And so I'm not entirely sure that this is something that the Congress necessarily needs to take up. And I'm hoping that they don't. Because, again, it's going to set up a really, really bad situation. All right, so I promised you another segment that I haven't done in a while. Let's go ahead and do a highlighting America. All right, and for tonight's highlighting America, I was tipped off to this by our very own Outlaw Dogs. Outlaw Dogs sent me a video, and of course there was a little back and forth to find out where it came from. So keep in mind, folks, if you are going to send me something that is not yours, you need to be able to provide me with where you got it and who owns it, because I've got to give credit and recognition to them. Got to make sure that the, copyright issues, infringements, stuff like that. So this young gentleman, and I'm going to say young because he's older than I am, younger than I am. This young man named Gabe Kunda, Kunda, posted this video on X. Now, he is a self-proclaimed actor, singer, and tech lover. But he posted this video publicly, and I just got to tell you, man, I get chills. I've gotten chills the couple times that I've listened to it. I have gotten chills. Bravo to this group of young men who have done this, but I want you to listen to this fantastic rendition of God Bless America. Take a listen.
God bless America.
Wow. That's all I've got to say. It's just, oh my gosh. If you don't have goosebumps off of that, woo, I think you're dead. I'm telling you. Holy smokes. That is fantastic. Now, this young man supposedly is 30 years old, okay? The one that posted it is the young man who is in the glasses down at the bottom, what would be your bottom left, okay? But I gotta tell you, yeah, absolutely. Standing ovation for this one. Man, that is fantastic. Oh my gosh. If that doesn't raise your spirits heading into Memorial Day weekend, it's just, wow. I almost have to listen to that again. I mean, I highly encourage. I put the link in the description. Y'all got to go and yeah, I'm telling you, y'all got to go and find that and just, I mean, wow. It's just amazing. Just absolutely amazing. It's fantastic. Great way to end the program on that. So do me a favor, if you haven't done so already and you're over on Rumble, hit the like, the thumbs up button, and so on and so forth. Do me a favor and do that. That helps us out on Rumble, gets us into, hopefully, into more views and seen and that kind of stuff. Also, if you're not a part of the Rumble community, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account, and be sure to follow American Perspective, the channel on Rumble. It's just a green follow button. It's free, doesn't cost you anything. Just go ahead and do the follows. Otherwise, folks, we'll see you tomorrow night. Right here on 1 hour later, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on American Perspective. Whew, what a way to go. You know what? I'm just going to let you listen to that just a real quick as we head on out. Just listen to this. Good night, everybody.
The previous broadcast was produced and is owned by Active Eye Media LLC. All rights reserved.